Governor, I want to thank you for joining us today. This was a very big day for the bank and for the markets. This year has been especially encouraging, I think, as far as you've been concerned. The economy has continued to grow at a pace that has exceeded your peers in Latin America. The implied volatility of the peso has collapsed, meaning that trader bets on the peso are increasing for its stability, and confidence is building, and the peso, in fact, is the best performing currency of 26 emerging markets so far this year. So today you raised interest rates. That was not a surprise. That was something that you'd been doing for quite some time. But now there is a bet by the market, by traders, that inflation has in fact peaked. Or is peaking right now as we speak, and that it will subside. It will get back to your target. So not only is this the pause maybe that refreshes that we're about to see, but is this a pause, do you think, that could go on for at least a year or so?
Well, we will see. I mean, certainly, well, first of all, thank you for visiting us here in Mexico, and welcome to Banco de Mexico. Yes, the last months have been good months. We had a rocky year last year. I think that a lot of the correction that is taking place has been the result of policy actions that we have taken in the monetary side, in the foreign exchange side, but also on the fiscal side. Basically, we're going through dynamics that is consistent with a one-off big inflation shock, and therefore we believe that the actions that we have taken with the information we have up to now should be sufficient to take us to our 3% objective towards the end of 2018. Now, of course, this is conditional on the information we have today, on some vague form of expectation of what the Fed will do, and so on and so forth. So at least we're expressing some confidence that what we have done is sufficient, but it will be sufficient for now until the end of next year. It's hard to say.
So even if the Federal Reserve were to raise interest rates again this year, as many in the market expect the Fed to do, and even the Fed has acknowledged that that's not an unreasonable assumption by the market, is it possible that the interest rate pause that is foreseen for Mexico could continue, could persist, even with that event?
Well, I mean, certainly it is possible. Now, it also will depend on the context, how the Fed does it. I mean, I have to say that the Fed is going through a very complex process. They have managed it really well, but that doesn't take away that they are doing something that is completely new, and we don't know how the markets will react, no? So, I mean, again, we believe that where we are now will lead us to the 3% level at some point, and we are ready to make the statement that up to today, we think that is sufficient, but we will be very vigilant.
So speaking of the Fed and your own august institution, right now the volatility in the Treasury market and the volatility for the peso, by historical standards, is right now very low.
Yes.
Which is an expression of trader confidence in monetary policy, and it's an expression of confidence in the currency, and it's an expression of confidence in the bond market. Is the market optimistic, or would you say realistic?
Well, I mean, you have to ask the market. I mean, I think in general, the markets have been acknowledging what we have been doing, and in a way, I think that we coincide in many aspects. Now, Sometimes markets are too pessimistic, sometimes markets are exuberant, and what we need to do is to keep a cool head. So that's what we're trying to say.
You're not unsettled at the moment by what the markets are doing right now, is that correct?
Yeah, no, I would agree that I'm not unsettled.
So let's turn to economists and their forecasts. When we survey economists on Mexico, their expectation is that growth in Mexico, as measured by gross domestic product, will actually outperform the northern North America region in 2019, right through 2019. Again, would you say that that is a reasonable assumption by economists based on the data that they have available to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mexico has done many important structural reforms. I think that we will reap the benefits of them through time. We have seen some in some areas, but we also have seen some good omens for the results of others, like for example, in terms of the fields of in terms of the oil reform that have been the blocks that have been auctioned, the electricity reform, and also, you know, I have the expectation that we will find a constructive arrangement with the U.S. in terms of defining our bilateral relationship.
So, so far so good, at least with the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Absolutely.
And when you look at other things like inflation, which has been a preoccupation of yours,
yes,
of late, do you see anything that goes against what you have argued has been essentially a one-off event that is now under control? Is that
yeah, I mean,
correct?
we don't see a major cloud in the horizon.
And so fair to expect inflation getting back to your target in the months ahead, somewhere
Yes.
between 2 and 4%.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, and the peso itself, as I mentioned, traders right now are reasonably bullish on the peso. It is projected, at least by the analysts that we survey, to be among the top performing currencies over the next 2 years. You have said in the past that a level of around 17 is not unreasonable. Is that still true by your own measures?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I would say it's not unreasonable, but this is not. This comment shouldn't be taken as a central banker's forecast or as a central banker's objective. No, it would be reasonable if you take into account the strength of the Mexican economy, if you take into account the policies we have undertaken, also the reasons that generated the very sharp depreciation that was not sustainable. So yes, I mean, I think it's in the realm of the feasible, yeah.
So, and speaking of the peso and peso-denominated debt, the spread between in interest rates between peso-denominated debt and dollar-denominated debt with respect to Mexico is exceptionally wide at the moment. A lot of traders see that as a buying opportunity. They think that because the peso is strengthening, this interest rate spread is something that they can exploit and do well with. Would you say that that's irrational or exuberant?
Well, to some extent. I mean, as you very well know, monetary policy works through different channels. And what traders do is one very important channel. And needless to say, some of our actions is to invite some of that type of reflection from market participants. I mean, at the end of the day, what we have done is that the interest rate differential adjusted by any type of risk would tell you that it is attractive to take peso risk, no? And so we have worked towards that objective.
So on the subject of risk, let's turn now to regulation. There is concern that at least some part of the market here has been manipulated, that some of the behavior in the market is not appropriate. There is an investigation. Lots of central banks coming out of the financial crisis, led by the Federal Reserve, and in other regulators, have argued that it's very important to protect the integrity of the markets, that they be transparent, and that there should be an understanding of what best practices are. What's your view at this point with respect to Mexico, and how do you see this investigation resulting?
Well, my sense is that this event doesn't characterize the entirety of the market. My sense, my understanding, it's that it's sort of an encapsulated issue. Second, I think is that it's very, very good that Mexico has an autonomous, independent federal antitrust commission that is looking into the behavior of all markets. I think that will enhance the integrity of our markets. Third, I mean, we as central bank fully support those activities, and as a matter of fact, we are also trying to promote the establishment of a very public, very open codes of conduct. Certainly, we are hoping through different committees also to have the market participants, especially the main intermediaries, to voluntarily subscribe to them. And that's the overwhelming, if not the unanimous opinion that we have heard from all of them. What we want is to convince them that it is a win-win situation if we have good behaved markets, that people trust them, that they're efficient. So we are all for doing that. We really want to have one of the best markets, or to be really on the top of the class.
Governor Carstens, thank you for sharing your perspective with us.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you very much.